Welcome back. The recent unexplained delays in the release of South Africa's quarterly crime statistics have triggered widespread concern, underscoring a critical need for transparency and accountability in official reporting. The South African Police Service has repeatedly postponed the release of the first quarter crime statistics for the financial year, which were scheduled to be made public in August and September. Now, this has happened despite a clear official release calendar. Critics, including opposition parties and civil society organizations, suggest the delay points to possible political interference, administrative dysfunction, or an attempt to manipulate the data, especially at a time of high violent crime and inner turmoil within the police ministry. Now, let's unpack these issues with Anine Kriegler from the Institute for Security Studies. Anine, thank you so much for your time this evening. Crime stats, they're not merely data, of course. These are really essential tools, if you will, for policy decision, transparency as well on the state of crime in communities. What are the consequences of this delay, specifically for policing on the ground?
Good evening. Thank you for having me. So absolutely, as you say, these stats are essential. And the key thing to flag up front is the SAPS already has these stats. They're already using them for their own operational planning. The important thing about the public release is that brings everyone else into the picture and makes it clear that this is not just for SAPS to respond to. This is across society that we need these statistics to fuel research, but analysis, and for all government departments and community members to be able to respond to what they say. So the longer there's a delay in releasing these, the more delay there would be in response from all of these other parties.
And you speak about the fact that the police already have these statistics and are able to use them in their operations. We know that gang violence, murders and other violent crimes remain a huge concern, specifically in the Western Cape and Gauteng. But how does withholding these stats affect tracking and tackling these threats, perhaps maybe even on a community level?
I think the biggest impact really is on trust. We know that with everything that's happening in policing at the moment, there is a real deficit of trust and faith in the police. So that's the biggest missed opportunity, that it gives this impression that something is being hidden or that there is dysfunction behind there, when what needs to be signaled very clearly is transparency and sharing the load of dealing with issues like gang violence. I don't know that communities living in those areas need to see the stats to know quite how serious it is, but for other departments to be able to know exactly where to target their resources and interventions, that's the purpose of these stats.
And one might have to look at the current climate of the South African Police Service, with the former Police Minister, Senzo Mchunu, on special leave amid those corruption allegations and an acting minister in place. Is the hold-up in the crime stats part of perhaps a larger leadership crisis?
I think leadership definitely plays a role, and it does make it more difficult, but there have been delays before. This is a massive data set that takes a lot of time to clean and to verify. The reason for these delays, we don't know, but certainly the instability at the moment can't be making it easier.
And while we don't know, we know that the DA has taken steps, of course, to demand the release of this data, even invoking the Promotion of Access to Information Act to compel SAPS essentially to release those delayed stats. There is a view, though, coming from the opposition parties that this holdup may very well be deliberate, perhaps to manipulate the data, or again, looking at that political interference. How true are these allegations or suspicions?
So I think the fact that we're in this situation points to how badly we're handling how poorly we're thinking about the purpose of crime stats. The fact that this has become so politicized, that this is used as another tool to point to dysfunction in the SAPS, when that really isn't what the crime stats should be at all. They are not a performance measure of the South African Police Service. The crime stats are an indicator of safety, a mirror of what is happening in our society. There are things for which the police should be held responsible, but crime levels is very low down on that list. So the fact that every quarter or every year, the National Police Commissioner has to go and stand in front of Parliament and account for crime levels is absurd, and it's politically inflammatory, and it doesn't have to be like that. The stats don't need to be released with a press conference every time. It doesn't have to be the National Commissioner at all. We need to rethink the way we do this. I mean, if you think about the idea of the Director General of Health having to go quarterly to sit in front of Parliament to give statistics on HIV or TB cases. No, that isn't performance information for the Department of Health. And similarly, crime information is not performance information for the South African Police Service. So if we need to depoliticize that data, see it as a national data set in the same way that employment data is, or health data. And that needs to be separated from this idea of police performance.
Yeah. And certainly to move politicians and the issue of politicizing crime is definitely something on the agenda, given the kind of conversations we've been having. And so you've mentioned that at the heart of this, it's actually transparency in regards to community members. But if somebody is listening at home and trying to understand why should they care whether or not those statistics have been made public, tell us, why should it matter to an ordinary South African?
So I think it's about trust. These stats are about us as people in this country and what we're doing to each other on a daily basis. And when we see that certain crimes are increasing in a particular area, that is extremely important information for communities to see what are the new trends that are developing in their area, and for social development and education and many other departments to say, there's a new or a new facet to the problem that we're facing of violence and crime in an area. So being able to respond to these challenges is extremely important.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time, Anine Kriegler from the Institute for Security Studies.